and the platform is yours.
Chair, thank you very much. We would like to thank the committee. We know how important your work is, and we apologize for coming this way. We did so because of the gravity of what Ms. Bawa did. And maybe members of the committee do not understand the gravity of what she did. We thank you for allowing us to do it this way. And we apologize that it looks like a hijack. We had no other way of doing this because the gravity to Black professionals who are junior, who are women, is great. That's why they're not here. Chairperson, our appearance is indeed an extraordinary occurrence, and we will give you a written statement that we have. And for that, as I said, we thank each and every member of this committee and Parliament. We know you're tasked with a very important matter, and to the extent that you will be required to make your decision, we are here to correct a distortion that occurred here last week. We appear before you today in order to assure you that we support the call for accountability because it's public funds we are dealing with, but we reject the notion of perpetuating a stereotype against Black people because this Parliament was established to vanquish those stereotypes. And Ms. Bawa is at the heart of doing this as a colleague. And he's not doing it for the first time, by the way, if I can tell the committee, not here, elsewhere. We are here, therefore, to alert you that people like Ms. Bawa, our colleague, can abuse a good process like this for purposes that this Parliament was not created for. This very unfortunate event, which happened last week, the manner and content of the supposed evidence of the PP's office expenditure on legal fees, point to a clear pattern. Chair, we chose today because Mr. Van der Merwe, who's the witness, is a man with whom both of us consulted recently. And not once did he alert us that this would happen to us. Chair, consistent with the most common mischief and racist perpetuation of a stereotype against Black professionals, Ms. Bawa knowingly and purposely, in our view, brandished our names and without any context to the public, read out alarming figures of monies we're supposed to have made, almost giving the impression we were looting our system. She knows that counsel in our referral profession submit their fee notes to the instructing attorney for payment for legal fees, for legal services actually rendered. Counsel is not given money by the client. So why did she try to create a direct correlation between the person of the PP and the fees paid out to instructing attorneys to specifically selected counsel? Of what discernible value is it to this committee to know that a Black advocate was paid 1 million rand for legal services in 2019 under Advocate Mkhwebane, if a white advocate was paid the same amount or more in 2015 under Madonsela? We want to state it categorically that we really reject Ms. Bawa's intended theory to portray Black professionals as corrupt. We reject as unprofessional her conduct to use her position in front of this very important place called Parliament to project that the figures that were put up were simply funneled to us by Advocate Mkhwebane. We want to state it, that we work under very testing conditions, and our juniors who are not here because they fear for their lives, because they've been told that they are corrupt by their family members. We are here to correct not the figures, but the fact that accountability for public funds could have been done without flighting our names, without telling the public that money was funneled to us. A person we regard as a colleague did what she did last Wednesday, as I said, knowing full well that the public, and indeed some of you, may not be aware that some of her figures are wrong. She has acknowledged that, and that she omitted the important context of the period over which these figures were accrued, even if they are accurate. In focusing on the figures, she omitted to explore the precise nature, the complexity, the importance of the value of the legal services actually rendered, thus perpetuating a stereotype that our services as Black professionals are of no value. She's never going to tell you how much she has made sitting here and how much she made in the Mukhoro matter, because we must be projected to the public, our people, in a particular way. Ms. Bawa hung us out to dry in an attempt to perpetuate this stereotype. A far more useful comparison for purposes of this process, I venture, would have been the legal fees, if we really want openness, paid to each of the white advocates and white law firms that render services, to all public protectors, regardless of who they are. To simply say the budget for legal fees was lower than is no answer. What fees were actually paid to those white advocates and firms, and what was the nature, value, performance, and complexity of the work they did? This character assassination, in our view, even if it was not her intention, that is what we've been subjected to since her statements, since this was published. What large sums of money has she herself sitting here, and she's not doing it for the first time. In the case of Panabantulu in the High Court, she did the same. So the apology is not accepted for that reason, because it's contrived. Like all stereotypes, Ms. Bawa tried to impute, to nurture the difference between Black and white by selecting us in a poisoned context and theory of abuse of state funds that she sought to sell to you. She throws the names of selected Black advocates in order to ride on the old racist stereotype that Black is corrupt, which we reject. Whether she intended it or not is irrelevant. She did this with the full knowledge that she had outside in the media space fertile ground in the Daily Maverick that now characterizes our fees, not as having been earned for legal services rendered, but as money is having been funneled to us through Advocate Nkweban, which is not true. A theory seeks to use this important process, our process, the parliament of our people. She uses it to perpetuate an old racist stereotypes against Africans. She knew full well that this would be the outcome. She knew full well, she's aware of the terrible conditions of her own African advocates, men and women, who have to fight and vanquish old stereotypes. Ms. Bawa's presentation of her evidence of the public protector's spend on legal fees could have been done differently without putting us under this. Chair, there is so much we can say about this, and I'm here representing myself and the Four Silks, all of us and the juniors who can't come here because they've been presented out there yet again as people whose services are of no value, and they were picked because they are supposed to be Black and corrupt. From our vantage point, it is hard not to conclude that this is what she intended. Her cruelty and hatred of us as her colleagues should not find space in this august house. Our own fights as colleagues should not come here. Chair, as I said, eventually, because the media space was fertile, is always fertile to perpetuate anti-Black narratives. Our names were hardly off the screen, and we were splashed in the Daily Maverick as RET tricksters and foes of the Constitution. Again, this is an inevitable result of the reckless handling of potentially ruinous evidence by Ms. Bawa. Chair, because I will give you the entire statement that we have, I want to end by saying this. This apparent ineptitude in her handling of evidence last Wednesday or Thursday suggests lack of experience, maybe, But I wouldn't go there. I think it suggests disrespect for this house. And we want to say to you, although she has corrected this, for the future, we think our names were used in vain and she has caused great pain. And we do not expect this parliament of our people to be used to perpetuate pains we've gone through for generations. And we ask that this committee notes this. The whole statement in a written form, Chair, is here, and I will send it to you. But lastly, Chair, I want to raise this again to the members. We are very sorry that we came this way. We're very sorry, Chair, that I know you for a long time personally, and I respect you. It was because of the gravity of the situation, and we did not know if we approached you outside this process, whether we would not compromise you. It's only for that reason. It was not a hijack. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Advocate Senior Counsel Sikhakhane. You've exactly exhausted that 10 minutes in what you've just made. Yes.
I just wanted to say Advocate Masugu SC would have been here with us as well. She's one of the 4 silks that had thought they should come here because they could handle this for our black juniors who can't. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Senior Counsel Sikhakhane. I suspect, therefore, Senior Counsel Ngalwana, he also spoke on your behalf. Unless you want to just say something?
Thank you, Chair. I have nothing to add.
Thank you. Thank you, Senior Counsel Ngalwana. I had directed that the matter be registered. It will not be for discussion. We take note of what you have presented. We are going to await, as I indicated, the formal written concerns being placed, including that statement. I need to immediately say that having listened to you in accepting this, and we certainly as a committee, as we approach the deliberations, are going to get into all of this. Members are still going to be asking questions after the cross-examination. And so you registering the point is not going to get lost. There will be that opportunity. There will also be an opportunity for the deliberations into this. But I do want to say as a chair, so that it's important that that point is registered. It's registered not to take away anything in terms of the content you've placed in front of this committee. That this committee had designated as a pioneering process what we call a hybrid process of members of the committee leading the charge, but with the external expertise in the form of evidence leaders. And for that, the work they do is not to be confined to Advocate Mayosi and Advocate Bawa. They do work on behalf of the committee. I would fail in my duty, therefore, not to make that point and properly defend Advocate Bawa, that this is not Advocate Bawa's issue, that Advocate Bawa is placing on record, as you would have done from day one of witnesses, evidence that she thinks that the committee must now hear, deliberate on. And it is this committee that is going to determine